The crystalline spires of the Zephyrian capital world gleamed like frozen lightning against the purple sky. Queen Thessera stood on her throne room's observation deck, her forearms crossed in obvious irritation as she watched the small human shuttle descend toward the landing platform for the 7th time this cycle. The ship's registry was burned into her memory now, UES Persistence, Captain Marcus Kane commanding. Your Majesty, her chief advisor Vextar approached with careful steps, his chitinous feet clicking against the polished floor. The human requests another audience. Of course he does. Thessara's voice carried the harmonic undertones that marked her species' royal bloodline. Her scaled skin shifted from its usual silver to an angry red hue. What excuse does he offer this time? He claims to have new information regarding the Zarathi incursion in the outer systems. Thessara's tail lashed behind her, betraying her annoyance despite her regal composure. The Zarathi were a constant thorn in her empire's side, a hive-minded species that consumed everything in their path. For 3 cycles now, Captain Kane had been pestering her court with proposals for joint human-Zephyrian operations against the Zarathi threat. Each time, she had dismissed him with the patience befitting her station, but that patience was wearing dangerously thin. Send him away, she commanded. The Zephyrian Empire has dealt with the Zarathi for millennia. We do not need the assistance of some upstart species that barely discovered faster-than-light travel 50 rotations ago. Vextar hesitated. Your Majesty, with respect, the human has been quite persistent. Perhaps if we granted him a brief audience, no. Thessara's voice carried a finality that made several courtiers step backward. I will not dignify his presumption with another meeting. The humans are barely more than primitives. Their technology is crude, their military tactics barbaric, and their diplomatic skills non-existent. What could they possibly offer that the greatest empire in this galaxy cannot accomplish alone? Through the observation window, she watched as the human shuttle's boarding ramp lowered. Captain Kane emerged, his form unmistakably human even at this distance. He was tall for his species, with the dark skin and close-cropped hair typical of Earth's military officers. What irritated Thessera most was his posture. He walked with the confidence of someone who belonged here, who had every right to demand her attention. The human is approaching the main entrance, Your Majesty, reported Commander Zeltok from his position near the communication console. Palace security is asking for instructions. Tell them to inform the captain that Queen Thessera is indisposed, she said coldly. Suggest he return to human space where his enthusiasm might be better appreciated. Thessera turned away from the window, her flowing robes rustling with the movement. The throne room was a masterpiece of Zephyrian architecture, with soaring arches that seemed to defy gravity and walls that shifted color based on the occupant's mood. Right now, they reflected her irritation in deep burgundy tones. She had inherited this empire from her mother, Queen Velterra, who had expanded Zephyrian influence across 47 star systems. Under Thessara's rule, that number had grown to 53. The Zephyrian military was disciplined, their technology sophisticated, their diplomatic corps the finest in known space. They had protocols, procedures, and proper channels for everything. The idea that some human upstart thought he could simply demand audiences with galactic royalty was beyond presumptuous. Your Majesty, Vextar spoke again, his voice carefully neutral. The human has been creative in his attempts to gain your attention. Perhaps we should consider creative? Thessera spun to face her advisor. Is that what you call his disruption of the trade summit last cycle? Or his unauthorized flyby of our military installations? The human has no concept of proper protocol. The truth was more complicated than she cared to admit. Captain Kane had indeed disrupted the trade summit, but only because he had information about Zarathi infiltrators among the delegate ships. His flyby of military installations had revealed security gaps that her own officers had missed. His unauthorized communications with Zephyrian fleet commanders had prevented 2 separate ambushes. In each case, his interference had been beneficial, but the manner of his approach was utterly unacceptable. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Commander Zeltok activated the display, and Captain Kane's face appeared in three-dimensional projection. His features were weathered in the way of career spacers, and his blue eyes held an intensity that Thessera found oddly unsettling. "Your Majesty," Kane began, apparently unaware that she hadn't authorized the communication. "I understand your reluctance to meet with me again, but I have intelligence that cannot wait for proper diplomatic channels. The Zarathi are planning something unprecedented. They've massed a fleet unlike anything your records describe. If you'll grant me just 10 minutes," Thessera gestured sharply, and Zeltok cut the transmission. "How did he access our secure communications?" she demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty," Zeltok replied, his mandibles clicking with embarrassment. "Our technicians are investigating." This was exactly what she meant about human behavior. They ignored protocols, circumvented security, and acted as though normal rules didn't apply to them. It was insufferable. Yet even as she fumed, a small part of her mind noted that accessing their secure communications required considerable technical skill. Perhaps the humans weren't quite as primitive as she assumed. "Your Majesty," another voice called from across the throne room. Admiral Kethvar approached with urgent steps. "We've received confirmation of massive Zarathi fleet movements in the Helix sector. Our deep space monitors are detecting energy signatures that don't match any known Zarathi technology." Thessera felt a chill run down her spine. The Helix sector was only 3 jump points from Zephyrian space. "How many ships?" "Preliminary estimates suggest over 3,000 vessels, Your Majesty. But the energy readings, they're unlike anything we've encountered before." The Queen's mind raced. 3,000 Zarathi ships represented the largest fleet ever assembled by the hive-minded species. Previous encounters had involved hundreds at most. Something had changed, something that made the Zarathi confident enough to commit such massive resources to a single operation. "Prepare our fleets for immediate deployment," she commanded. "I want every available ship moved to defensive positions." "Your Majesty," Kethvar's voice carried an unusual uncertainty. "Our intelligence suggests this may not be a typical Zarathi expansion. The fleet composition includes vessel types we've never seen. Our tactical computers cannot predict their capabilities or intentions." Before Thessera could respond, another communication alert sounded. This time, the transmission came through properly authorized channels, bearing the diplomatic seal of the Human Colonial Authority. A different human appeared on the display, older than Kane with silver-gray hair and formal diplomatic attire. "Your Majesty, I am Ambassador Harrison Wells representing the Human Colonial Authority. I apologize for the unconventional behavior of Captain Kane. However, I must stress the urgency of his message. Our intelligence networks have detected a fundamental shift in Zarathi behavior. They appear to be preparing for a campaign of unprecedented scale." Thessera studied the ambassador's face. Unlike Kane's direct intensity, Wells displayed the careful composure of an experienced diplomat. His words carried weight precisely because they came through proper channels. "What evidence do you offer, Ambassador?" "Our deep space reconnaissance has identified a new Zarathi facility in what they call the Convergence Zone. This installation appears to be some form of enhancement center where they're modifying their ships and, possibly their biology. Captain Kane has gathered intelligence suggesting they plan to use this enhanced fleet for a rapid conquest of this entire galactic sector." The implications hit Thessera like a physical blow. If the Zarathi could conquer multiple species simultaneously, they would gain resources and technology at an exponential rate. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia would collapse. "Why should the Zephyrian Empire trust human intelligence?" she asked. "Because, Your Majesty, we face the same threat. The Zarathi Enhancement Facility is converting their ships to operate using a hybrid of their biological technology and captured hardware from dozens of species. They've incorporated Zephyrian shield generators, human propulsion systems, Altarian weapons technology, and defensive systems from at least 6 other civilizations. They're becoming something far more dangerous than the species we've encountered before. Thessara's forehands clenched into fists. The idea that her people's technology was being perverted by the Zarathi filled her with rage, but it also confirmed her worst fears about human behavior. They had somehow penetrated deep enough into Zarathi space to observe this facility, which meant they possessed intelligence capabilities far beyond what they had revealed. "And what does Captain Kane propose?" she asked through gritted teeth. "A joint operation to destroy the enhancement facility before the Zarathi can complete their preparations. He's been trying to share tactical plans that could save millions of lives across multiple species." The throne room fell silent except for the subtle hum of the palace's environmental systems. Thessara stared at the ambassador's image, her mind weighing options. Every instinct told her to handle this threat using established Zephyrian protocols. Her military was strong, her intelligence networks extensive, her technology sophisticated. They had survived Zarathi aggression for centuries without human assistance. But 3,000 enhanced Zarathi ships represented a threat beyond any they had faced before. "Very well," she said finally. "I will grant Captain Kane one audience. 10 minutes. He will present his evidence and his proposal, and then he will leave Zephyrian space regardless of my decision." Ambassador Wells smiled with relief. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I assure you that Captain Kane's information is worth your time." The transmission ended, leaving Thessara alone with her thoughts and the disapproving gazes of her courtiers. She knew they questioned her decision to deal with the humans at all. The Zephyrian Empire had maintained its independence and dignity for millennia by never showing weakness or dependence on other species. "Vexstar," she called to her chief advisor. "Prepare the small council chamber. I want Admiral Kethvar, Intelligence Director Mordak, and Fleet Commander Silthek present for this meeting." "Your Majesty," Vexstar approached carefully. "Perhaps it would be wise to have additional security present? The humans have proven unpredictable." Thessara considered this. Captain Kane had never shown hostile intent, but he had demonstrated an alarming ability to circumvent her security measures. "Double the guard detail, but keep them discreet. I will not give the impression that the Queen of Zephyria fears a single human." As her staff prepared for the meeting, Thessara returned to the observation window. The human shuttle remained on the landing platform, its crew apparently confident that their captain would eventually gain the audience he sought. The sight irritated her even more than before. Humans had appeared in galactic affairs barely 5 decades ago, emerging from their single star system with crude ships and an inexplicably aggressive exploration program. Most established civilizations had expected them to burn out quickly, either through overextension or conflict with more advanced species. Instead, they had somehow survived every encounter, adapted to every challenge, and carved out a small but growing presence in galactic politics. What troubled Thessara most was their refusal to acknowledge their proper place in the established order. Young species were supposed to show deference to their elders, seek guidance from more advanced civilizations, and gradually earn their place through demonstrated worthiness over generations. Humans ignored these conventions entirely, acting as though their 50 years of spaceflight made them equals to species that had sailed between the stars for millennia. A soft knock at the chamber door announced the arrival of her senior staff. Admiral Kethvar entered first, his imposing frame encased in formal military dress. Intelligence Director Mordak followed, her pale features reflecting the cybernetic enhancements that marked her profession. Fleet Commander Silthek brought up the rear, his young face showing the uncertainty that came with rapid promotion during dangerous times. "Your Majesty," Kethvar spoke first, "our deep space monitors confirm the human intelligence reports. The Zarathi fleet is larger than anything in our historical records." "How long before they complete their preparations?" Thessara asked. "Unknown," Mordak replied, her enhanced eyes glowing softly as she accessed internal data files. "But, based on the energy signatures from their enhancement facility, we estimate no more than 20 cycles. After that, they'll have the capability to launch coordinated attacks against multiple targets simultaneously. Thessera nodded grimly. 20 cycles wasn't enough time to reinforce their defenses or rally other species to the threat. The Zephyrian Empire would have to act quickly, but acting quickly meant accepting human assistance. "Bring in Captain Kane," she commanded. The human entered the chamber with the same confident stride she had observed from the window. Up close, his presence was even more unsettling. He moved like a predator, alert and ready despite being surrounded by potentially hostile aliens. His uniform was simple compared to Zephyrian formal wear, but it was spotlessly clean and bore the scars of long service. "Your Majesty," Kane said, offering a bow that was technically correct but somehow managed to seem casual rather than deferential. "Thank you for agreeing to see me." "You have 10 minutes, Captain," Thessera replied coldly. "Use them wisely." Kane activated a portable projection device and filled the center of the room with a three-dimensional display of the Zarathi Enhancement Facility. The structure was massive, a twisted amalgamation of biological growth and mechanical construction that stretched across several kilometers. "This facility became operational 6 months ago," Kane began. "The Zarathi have been systematically capturing and reverse engineering technology from every species they encounter. But they're not just copying it, they're integrating it into their own biological systems in ways that shouldn't be possible." The display shifted to show detailed scans of enhanced Zarathi vessels. Thessera's breath caught as she recognized her people's distinctive shield technology grafted onto the alien ship's hulls. "They've solved the compatibility problem," Kane continued. "Biological and mechanical systems that should reject each other are functioning in perfect harmony. Their ships are becoming faster, stronger, and more adaptable than anything we've seen before." "How did you acquire this intelligence?" Kethvar demanded. Kane's expression didn't change. "We have our methods, Admiral. What matters is that the intelligence is accurate, as your own sensors are confirming." "And what do you propose?" Thessera asked, though she was beginning to suspect she already knew. "A joint strike force," Kane replied. "Human ships have certain advantages in stealth and electronic warfare. Zephyrian vessels excel in firepower and defensive capability. Together, we could penetrate their defenses and destroy the enhancement facility before they complete their preparations." The proposal was logical, Thessera had to admit. But it also meant acknowledging that the Zephyrian Empire needed human assistance, something that went against every principle of royal independence she had been taught since childhood. "Why should we trust human military doctrine?" Silthek asked, his young voice carrying skepticism. "Your species has no experience with large-scale galactic warfare." Kane turned to face the fleet commander, and Thessera caught something dangerous in his eyes. "Commander, in the past 50 years, humans have fought against or alongside 17 different alien species. We've survived encounters with the Krallian Empire, the Void Touched, the Machine Orthodoxy, and 12 others. Each time, we've been outnumbered, outgunned, and written off as doomed. Each time, we've found a way to win. Through luck and circumstance," Mordak interjected. "Through adaptability and determination," Kane corrected. "Your people have impressive technology and excellent training, Director. But you fight the way you've always fought. Humans fight to win, regardless of the cost or the rules." The statement hung in the air like a challenge. Thessera could see her staff's reaction, a mixture of offense at the implied criticism and unease at the human's casual mention of ignoring rules. These were exactly the qualities that made humans so frustrating to deal with. "You ask me to risk Zephyrian lives on human promises," she said. "I ask you to save Zephyrian lives with human assistance," Kane replied. "Your Majesty, in 20 days, the Zarathi will have the capability to launch simultaneous attacks against the Zephyrian Empire, the Altarian Republic, the Centauran Coalition, and at least 4 other major powers. They'll overwhelm our defenses through sheer numbers and enhanced technology. Working separately, we all fall. Working together, we have a chance. Thessera studied the tactical display, her mind running through possibilities. The enhancement facility was heavily defended, surrounded by natural barriers and protected by patrol fleets. A direct assault would require massive resources and result in catastrophic casualties. But Kane was right about one thing: doing nothing meant facing an enhanced Zarathi fleet that would be virtually unstoppable. What specific role would human forces play in this operation, she asked. Kane manipulated the display to show potential approach routes. Our stealth ships would infiltrate the outer perimeter and disable their early warning systems. We'd create electronic interference to mask the approach of your main fleet. Once you engage their defenses, we'd conduct precision strikes against critical facility components while your forces keep their attention focused elsewhere. It was a sound tactical plan, Thessera realized with grudging respect. The humans would handle the roles their technology suited them for while allowing Zephyrian forces to do what they did best. It was also a plan that recognized Zephyrian military superiority in direct combat, something that appealed to her pride even as she remained suspicious of human motives. And, afterward, she asked, "What does humanity expect in return for this assistance?" Kane's expression grew serious. "Nothing, Your Majesty. The Zarathi threat affects all of us. We help each other survive, or we all fall separately." The simplicity of the answer somehow made it more believable than any elaborate diplomatic proposal would have been. Thessera found herself believing that this particular human, at least, genuinely wanted nothing more than to stop a common enemy. But believing Kane didn't mean trusting his species. "I need time to consider your proposal, Captain," she said finally. "Your Majesty," Kane's voice took on an urgent edge, "every day we delay gives them more time to complete their preparations. Every enhanced ship that leaves that facility makes our task harder." "I said I need time to consider," Thessera repeated, letting ice creep into her voice. "This audience is concluded." Kane looked like he wanted to argue further, but he settled for another technically correct bow. "Thank you for your time, Your Majesty. I hope we can work together to stop this threat." After the human left, Thessera remained in the chamber with her senior staff. The tactical display still showed the Zarathi enhancement facility, its twisted structure a reminder of the threat they all faced. "Your assessment," she asked her advisors. "The intelligence appears accurate," Mordak said reluctantly. "Our deep space monitors confirm the facility's existence and the enhanced energy signatures." "The tactical plan has merit," Kethvar admitted. "Human stealth technology would be useful for the approach phase. But can we trust them?" Silthek asked the question they were all thinking. Thessera considered this. Everything she knew about humans suggested they were opportunistic, aggressive, and unreliable. But everything Captain Kane had shown her suggested genuine concern for the threat they all faced. The contradiction troubled her more than she cared to admit. "Admiral," she said finally, "prepare contingency plans for both scenarios. If we decide to work with the humans, I want our forces ready to coordinate with theirs. If we decline their assistance, I want alternative strategies for dealing with the Zarathi threat." As her staff departed to carry out her orders, Thessera remained alone with the tactical display. The enhancement facility rotated slowly in the projection, its alien architecture a reminder that some threats were too large for any one species to face alone. But admitting that would change everything about how the Zephyrian Empire saw itself and its place in the galaxy. The decision before her would define not just her reign, but the future of her people. 3 days had passed since Captain Kane's presentation, and the debates in the Zephyrian High Council had grown increasingly heated. Queen Thessera sat at the head of the Oval Council chamber, listening to her advisors argue over humanity's proposal while the tactical hologram of the Zarathi enhancement facility rotated ominously in the center of the room. "The humans are clearly attempting to gain access to our military secrets," declared Admiral Velvar, the most senior officer in the Zephyrian fleet. His scarred carapace bore the marks of a dozen battles against various enemies. This entire crisis could be an elaborate ruse designed to infiltrate our defenses. Intelligence Director Mordak activated her cybernetic implants, data streams flowing across her enhanced vision. My analysis suggests otherwise, Admiral. The Zarathi facility is real, the threat is genuine, and the timeline is accurate. I've confirmed their intelligence through 3 separate sources. Then, we handle it ourselves, Veldar replied firmly. The Zephyrian Navy has dealt with threats for millennia without requiring assistance from upstart species. Fleet Commander Silthek shifted uncomfortably in his seat. As the youngest member of the Council, he rarely spoke against senior officers, but the tactical displays had been keeping him awake for nights. Admiral, with respect, the scale of this threat exceeds anything in our historical records. 3,000 enhanced vessels represents a force capable of overwhelming our defenses through sheer numbers. Are you suggesting the mighty Zephyrian fleet cannot handle a collection of biological ships? Veldar's voice carried dangerous undertones. I'm suggesting we consider all options, Silthek replied carefully. The human tactical plan has advantages our own strategies lack. Science Director Kelmoran spoke from his position near the technical displays. The enhancement technology the Zarathi have developed represents a significant advancement in biomechanical integration. If they succeed in deploying this across their entire fleet, the technological implications could reshape galactic warfare. Thessera watched the debate with growing frustration. Her council was doing exactly what she expected, analyzing the threat from every angle while avoiding the central question of whether to accept human assistance. The Zephyrian way was to deliberate carefully, consider all possibilities, and reach consensus through rational discussion. It was a method that had served her empire well for generations, but it was also time-consuming in a way they could no longer afford. Your Majesty, Vextar spoke from his position as chief advisor, perhaps we should consider the political ramifications of cooperation with humanity. Other species are watching how we respond to this crisis. Our decision will set precedents for future interactions. This was the heart of Thessara's dilemma. The Zephyrian Empire had maintained its position as a dominant galactic power through a combination of military strength, technological advancement, and careful diplomacy. Accepting help from a species barely 50 years into their spacefaring age would signal weakness to potential rivals and encourage other young species to make similar presumptuous offers. The political implications cut both ways, offered Chief Diplomat Kendar, her melodious voice carrying the trained modulation of her profession. If we successfully cooperate with humanity, it demonstrates our ability to build coalitions when necessary. If we refuse their aid and, subsequently suffer losses to the Zarathi, it suggests prideful inflexibility. Before anyone could respond, an urgent communication alert echoed through the chamber. Commander Zeltok activated the display, revealing the concerned features of Captain Morthan, commander of the Deep Space Monitoring Station in the Helix sector. Your Majesty, Morthan's voice carried barely controlled alarm, the Zarathi have accelerated their timeline. The enhancement facility is operating at maximum capacity, and we're detecting the departure of the first enhanced battle groups. They're not waiting 20 cycles, they're beginning operations now. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Thessera felt her heart rate increase as she processed this development. How many ships? Approximately 300 vessels in the first wave, Your Majesty. But these appear to be scout formations testing their enhanced capabilities. The energy signatures are unlike anything we've previously encountered. Where are they heading? Admiral Kethvar demanded. Multiple vectors, Admiral. Some appear to be heading toward Altarian space, others toward the outer colonies of the Centauran Coalition. At least one group is on an intercept course with our border systems. Thessara's mind raced through the implications. The Zarathi weren't just preparing for war, they were already beginning it. The luxury of careful deliberation had just evaporated. Admiral Veldar, she commanded, I want all available fleets moved to defensive positions immediately. Priority protection for our core systems and major population centers. Yes, Your Majesty, Veldar replied, but his expression showed the same concern that gripped them all. Even with their full fleet deployed, covering all potential targets would spread their forces dangerously thin. Captain Morthan, Thessera addressed the Monitor Commander, maintain continuous surveillance and report any changes in Zarathi movement patterns. I want updates every 6 hours. As the transmission ended, the council chamber erupted in urgent discussions. Plans that had seemed adequate during peaceful deliberation suddenly appeared insufficient in the face of an active threat. Thessera watched her advisors scramble to adjust their calculations and realized that Captain Kane had been right about the urgency of the situation. Your Majesty, Vextar approached her throne with careful steps. Perhaps now would be an appropriate time to reconsider the human proposal? The suggestion hung in the air like an admission of defeat. Around the chamber, conversations gradually ceased as council members realized the same thing. Their traditional methods of handling threats assumed they would have time to mobilize, coordinate, and respond according to established protocols. The Zarathi had just eliminated that assumption. Summon Captain Kane, Thessera said finally, the words tasting like ash in her mouth. Within the hour, the human captain was back in the council chamber, his portable projector displaying updated intelligence about Zarathi movements. If he felt vindicated by the changing circumstances, he showed no sign of it. Instead, he focused on practical matters with the same intensity Thessera had observed before. The first wave is a probing attack, Kane explained, manipulating the tactical display to show predicted movement patterns. They're testing response times, defensive capabilities, and coordination between different species fleets. The intelligence they gather will inform their main assault. How long do we have? Kethvar asked. Based on their current enhancement rate and the size of their staging area, I estimate 14 days before they can launch their primary offensive. But that assumes they don't accelerate further, which they might if the probe attacks encounter weak resistance. Thessera studied the projections, noting how Kane's predictions aligned with her own staff's analysis. What modifications would you make to your original proposal? Kane gestured, and the display shifted to show a more complex operational plan. The accelerated timeline changes our approach. We can't wait for perfect coordination. We need to act while most of their enhanced fleet is still under construction. A smaller strike force moving immediately has a better chance of success than a larger force that arrives too late. Admiral Veldar leaned forward, his skepticism evident. Define smaller, Captain. 12 Zephyrian heavy cruisers, 8 human stealth frigates, and 4 specialized ships for electronic warfare and facility demolition. Fast enough to reach the target before they complete their preparations, small enough to avoid detection until we're committed to the attack. The numbers were sobering. Against a facility protected by hundreds of Zarathi ships, a force of 24 vessels seemed almost suicidal. But Thessera could see the logic. A larger force would be detected and engaged long before reaching the target. Casualties, she asked quietly. Kane met her eyes directly. High. Probably 60% or more. But if we succeed in destroying the facility, the Zarathi lose their enhancement capability and revert to conventional tactics. If we fail or don't try, they complete their preparations and become unstoppable. Science Director Kelmoran activated his analysis screens. The facility's destruction would indeed eliminate their enhancement capability. The biomechanical integration process appears to require specialized equipment that cannot be easily replaced. And, if the strike force is destroyed without accomplishing its mission? Kendar asked. Then, we lose 24 ships instead of losing everything, Kane replied bluntly. The Zarathi enhancement program represents an existential threat to every spacefaring species in this sector. Conventional defensive strategies won't work against ships that combine our best technologies with their biological adaptability. Thessera found herself impressed despite her reservations. Kane wasn't minimizing the risks or overselling the benefits. He was presenting the situation exactly as it was, desperate circumstances requiring desperate measures. "I need to speak with my senior staff privately," she announced. "Captain Kane, please wait outside while we discuss your proposal." As the human departed, Thessera turned to face her counsel. The chamber's environmental systems hummed quietly in the background while her advisors processed what they had heard. "Your assessments?" she asked. "The plan is militarily sound," Kethvar admitted reluctantly. "Risky, but sound. Our heavy cruisers provide the firepower necessary to penetrate hardened defenses, while human stealth technology allows the approach phase. The political implications remain problematic," Kendar pointed out. "Cooperating with humanity sets precedents that could complicate future diplomatic relationships." "What precedent?" Silthek asked with unusual boldness. "That we're willing to work with allies against existential threats? That seems like a precedent worth setting." Admiral Veldar's mandibles clicked in irritation. "The precedent that the Zephyrian Empire requires assistance from inferior species. Once that perception takes hold, every minor power will expect equal treatment in negotiations. Better than the precedent of the Zephyrian Empire being consumed by the Zarathi," Mordak observed dryly. "Political considerations become irrelevant if our civilization doesn't survive to enjoy them." Thessera listened to the debate while studying the tactical projections Kane had left active. The enhancement facility rotated slowly in the holographic display, its twisted biomechanical structure a reminder of how much the galaxy could change if they failed to act. "Intelligence Director," she said suddenly, "you've analyzed human military records. What is your assessment of their combat effectiveness?" Mordak's cybernetic implants glowed as she accessed data files. "Statistically impressive, Your Majesty. In 47 recorded engagements against technologically superior opponents, human forces have achieved victory or strategic objectives in 39 cases. Their tactical flexibility and willingness to accept casualties for strategic gain is notable." "Notable how?" "They fight differently than established species, Your Majesty. Where we might withdraw to preserve forces for future engagements, humans tend to commit everything to the immediate objective. Where we might seek technological solutions to tactical problems, humans often rely on improvisation and adaptation." "Are you saying they're better warriors than Zephyrians?" Veldar demanded. "I'm saying they're different warriors," Mordak replied carefully. "Their methods would be considered reckless by our standards, but their results speak for themselves." Thessera considered this analysis. Everything she knew about human behavior supported Mordak's assessment. They ignored established procedures, acted without proper authorization, and generally behaved as though normal rules didn't apply to them. But they also got results that more conventional approaches failed to achieve. "Science Director," she continued, "what is your evaluation of their technological contributions to the proposed operation?" Kelmoran manipulated his analysis screens, displaying comparative data. "Human stealth technology is approximately 15 years ahead of our current capabilities, Your Majesty. Their electronic warfare systems show similar advancement. In those specific areas, their contributions would be significant." 15 years? Silthek looked surprised. "How is that possible? Their overall technology level is far behind ours." "Focused development," Kelmoran explained. "While we advance across all technological areas simultaneously, humans appear to concentrate on specific capabilities that serve immediate needs. Their stealth and electronic warfare technologies have advanced rapidly because they've needed those capabilities to survive encounters with superior forces." The explanation made sense, but it also troubled Thessera. If humans could achieve such rapid advancement in specific areas, what would they be capable of given more time and resources? The species that seemed like upstart primitives today might become serious rivals tomorrow. "Admiral Kethvar," she said, can our forces coordinate effectively with human ships? Are there compatibility issues that might compromise the operation? Some technical challenges, Kethvar admitted, but nothing insurmountable. Human ships use different communication protocols and navigation systems, but we've worked with diverse technologies before. The real question is tactical coordination. Can our commanders trust human officers to follow operational plans? Based on Captain Kane's behavior, Vextar observed, I would expect human forces to improvise if circumstances change. That could be advantageous, Silthek pointed out. Rigid adherence to plans can be a weakness when facing adaptive enemies like the Zarathi. The debate was starting to repeat itself, Thessera realized. Her counsel was circling around the central question without reaching a conclusion because the question itself was unprecedented. The Zephyrian Empire had never faced a decision quite like this, accept help from an inferior species or risk everything on traditional methods. A soft chime indicated another incoming priority communication. This time, the display showed Admiral Korthlon commanding the Border Patrol Fleet. Your Majesty, Korthlon's voice carried grim news, the Zarathi probe force has engaged our outer detection grid. 3 monitoring stations destroyed, 2 more under attack. The enhanced vessels are proving more effective than anticipated. Casualties? Thessera asked. 17 ships lost, 12 damaged. Your Majesty, their enhancement technology is beyond our projections. These aren't just upgraded Zarathi vessels, they're something entirely new. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. 17 ships lost to a mere probe force was a catastrophic casualty rate. If the scouts were this effective, the main Zarathi fleet would be unstoppable. Your Majesty, Vextar spoke quietly, perhaps the time for debate has passed. Thessera looked around the chamber at her advisors' faces. Each showed the same realization, their traditional approaches were insufficient for the threat they faced. Pride and protocol were luxuries they could no longer afford. Summon Captain Kane, she commanded. When the human returned, Thessera stood from her throne and faced him directly. Captain, the Zephyrian Empire accepts your proposal for joint operations against the Zarathi Enhancement Facility. Kane nodded solemnly, showing none of the triumph she might have expected. Thank you, Your Majesty. We'll need to begin preparations immediately if we're going to reach the target before their main fleet deploys. What do you require from us? 12 of your best heavy cruisers with experienced crews, coordination protocols for joint operations, and tactical intelligence about Zarathi defensive patterns. My ships will handle infiltration and target designation, yours will provide the firepower to destroy the facility. Admiral Kethvar stepped forward. I'll command the Zephyrian contingent personally. If we're going to do this, we'll do it properly. Admiral, Kane said respectfully, I appreciate your commitment, but this mission requires complete tactical flexibility. Orders might need to change without time for consultation or debate. Are you questioning my ability to adapt to changing circumstances? Kethvar's voice carried warning undertones. I'm stating mission requirements, Kane replied evenly. This operation succeeds through improvisation and rapid response, not through careful planning and coordination. Your crews need to be prepared for that reality. Thessera watched the exchange with interest. Kane was trying to prepare her people for the unconventional nature of human military operations without insulting their capabilities. It was a diplomatic tightrope that required considerable skill. Admiral, she said, select officers and crew who can adapt to unorthodox tactical situations. Captain Kane, what is your proposed timeline? Departure in 18 hours, Your Majesty. Travel time to the target is 4 days, which gives us time for coordination exercises during transit. The attack must occur in 7 days or we risk encountering enhanced Zarathi reinforcements. 7 days to prepare, execute, and complete an operation that would determine the fate of galactic civilization. Thessera felt the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders like a physical burden. Very well, she said formally. Let it be recorded that Queen Thessera of Zephyria authorizes joint military operations with the Human Colonial Authority against the Zorathi Enhancement Facility. May the ancestors watch over us all. As the council session ended and her staff departed to begin preparations, Thessera remained in the chamber with the tactical display. The enhancement facility continued its slow rotation, a twisted monument to alien ambition that would either be destroyed or become the birthplace of galactic conquest. She had committed her empire to an alliance with humans, a decision that would be remembered for generations, assuming anyone survived to remember it. The joint fleet assembled at Rally Point Sigma looked like no military formation in galactic history. 12 Zephyrian heavy cruisers hung in perfect geometric formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming against the star field. Nearby, 8 human stealth frigates maintained positions that seemed almost random by comparison, their dark hull coatings making them difficult to see even at close range. The contrast between the two forces was striking, Zephyrian precision versus human adaptability made manifest in ship design and deployment. Queen Thessera observed the fleet from the bridge of her flagship, the ZNS Starburst, a massive dreadnought that served as the mobile command center for major operations. She had chosen to accompany the mission personally, a decision that had horrified her advisors but seemed necessary given the unprecedented nature of the alliance. If she was asking her people to trust human military doctrine, she needed to demonstrate her own commitment to that trust. Captain Kane's ship, the UES Persistence, moved through the formation like a predator among sleeping giants. His vessel was smaller than any Zephyrian cruiser but radiated an aura of barely contained lethality that made even veteran spacers nervous. Thessera had spent the past 3 days observing human operations and finding herself alternately impressed and appalled by their methods. Your Majesty, Admiral Kethvar approached her observation station, his expression reflecting the same mixture of admiration and concern that had characterized most interactions with their human allies. Captain Kane requests permission to begin the final phase of coordination exercises. Thessera nodded her consent, then watched as the tactical display updated to show the proposed exercise scenario. The humans wanted to practice an approach technique that involved disabling multiple sensor networks simultaneously while maintaining communication silence. It was the kind of complex, high-risk maneuver that Zephyrian doctrine would normally build up to through months of preparation. Admiral, she said quietly, your honest assessment of our human allies? Kethvar paused before responding, choosing his words carefully. They are competent, Your Majesty. Their technical skills exceed my expectations, and their tactical thinking is genuinely innovative. But they approach warfare like it's some kind of improvised art form rather than a military science. On the tactical display, human ships began executing maneuvers that seemed to defy standard physics. Their vessels moved in patterns that looked chaotic but somehow avoided collision while achieving perfect positioning for the simulated attack. Thessera watched, fascinated despite herself, as they demonstrated capabilities that her own crews were struggling to match. They're using gravitational fluctuations to mask their engine signatures, observed Science Officer Kelvatz from his sensor station. And their electronic warfare systems are creating false readings that make our instruments think there are ships where none exist. Can we duplicate these techniques? Thessera asked. The gravitational masking, yes, with modifications to our navigation systems. The electronic deception requires processing power and software sophistication that we lack. Their computers appear to think differently than ours do. It was an apt observation. Everything about human technology reflected their species' approach to problem-solving, adaptive, innovative, and utterly unconcerned with established procedures. Thessera had been monitoring their communications during the exercises and noticed that human crews seemed to discuss tactics like they were having casual conversations, with none of the formal protocols that characterized Zephyrian military operations. Your Majesty, Communications Officer Zeldan called from her station. Captain Kane requests private communication. Thessera authorized the link, and Kane's image appeared on her personal display. The human looked tired, which didn't surprise her given the pace of preparations, but his eyes retained their characteristic intensity. "Your Majesty," Kane began, "I wanted to discuss the final approach sequence with you personally. There are aspects of the operation that your crews might find unconventional." "Explain." Kane activated his own tactical display, showing the target facility and surrounding defenses. The Zarathi have positioned their patrol fleets in overlapping coverage patterns that make traditional approaches impossible. To reach the facility undetected, we'll need to use what humans call creative navigation. The display showed a route that seemed to thread between patrol zones using gravitational anomalies, asteroid fields, and the facility's own sensor shadows. It was the kind of path that would require constant course corrections and split-second timing to navigate successfully. "Your ships will need to follow human navigation guidance during the approach," Kane continued. "Our computers can calculate the micro-adjustments in real time, but your crews will need to trust our instructions even when they seem contradictory to Zephyrian procedures." Thessera studied the proposed route, recognizing both its brilliance and its danger. "What happens if we lose communication during the approach?" "Then, we improvise," Kane replied with disturbing casualness. "Your crews need to understand that this mission succeeds through adaptation, not through following predetermined plans. When things go wrong, and they will go wrong, we need people who can think on their feet." Admiral Kethvar, Thessera called to her senior officer, "Join this conversation." As Kethvar's image appeared on the split screen, Thessera could see the tension between the two military commanders. They respected each other's abilities but represented completely different approaches to warfare. "Admiral," Kane continued his briefing, "during the actual assault, human ships will create diversions and eliminate specific threats while your heavy cruisers focus on the primary target. Coordination will be through battlefield telepresence rather than voice communication." "Telepresence?" Kethvar looked puzzled. Kane gestured, and both Zephyrian officers felt a subtle sensation as their command implants interfaced with human technology. Suddenly, they could sense the positions and intentions of every ship in the fleet as if they were extensions of their own bodies. "Neural link combat coordination," Kane explained. "It allows rapid response to changing situations without the delay of verbal communication. Your tactical officers will need to interface directly with human systems during the operation." The implications were staggering. Neural interface technology was restricted to the highest levels of Zephyrian military and intelligence services. Allowing aliens access to their officers' minds represented an unprecedented level of trust and vulnerability. "Is this absolutely necessary?" Kethvar asked. "For mission success, yes. The Zarathi adaptation rate means our battle plan will be obsolete within minutes of engagement. Neural coordination allows us to adapt faster than they can respond." Thessera considered the request. Everything about this operation pushed against Zephyrian military traditions, but the alternative was facing an enhanced Zarathi fleet with conventional tactics that had already proven insufficient. "Admiral, implement the neural interface protocols," she commanded. "If we're committed to this alliance, we're committed to its requirements." As the communication ended, Thessera remained at her observation station watching the final coordination exercises. Human and Zephyrian ships moved through increasingly complex maneuvers, their crews learning to anticipate each other's actions and respond to shared tactical consciousness. It was mesmerizing and terrifying in equal measure. "Your Majesty," Vextar approached with obvious concern, "intelligence reports from the target area suggest the Zarathi have accelerated their enhancement program again. The facility is operating beyond theoretical capacity." The news was unwelcome but not unexpected. The Zarathi had shown consistent ability to exceed projections throughout the crisis. "How does this affect our timeline?" Captain Kane believes we can still reach the target before their main fleet deploys, but the margin for error has essentially disappeared. Any delay or complication will result in facing hundreds of enhanced Zarathi ships. Thessera nodded grimly. They were committed to a course of action that required perfect execution and considerable luck. It was exactly the kind of desperate gamble that human military doctrine seemed designed for. Your Majesty, Admiral Kethvar returned to her station. The neural interface exercises are complete. Our crews report successful integration with human tactical systems, though they describe the experience as disorienting. How so? Human tactical thinking appears to operate on multiple levels simultaneously. While we process information sequentially and reach logical conclusions, they seem to maintain several potential solutions in parallel and switch between them instantaneously. It's like sharing thoughts with someone whose mind works completely differently than yours. The observation troubled Thessera more than she cared to admit. If human thinking was truly that different from Zephyrian cognition, what did that mean for long-term relations between their species? Could beings with such different mental processes ever truly understand each other? Before she could pursue that unsettling line of thought, the fleet communication system activated with an urgent priority signal. The main display showed Ambassador Wells transmitting from Earth, his expression grave with recent news. Your Majesty, Admiral, I'm afraid I have disturbing intelligence from our deep space monitoring networks. The Zarathi have detected unusual activity in our staging area. They're dispatching investigation fleets to multiple possible launch points. The implications hit Thessera like a physical blow. If the Zarathi suspected an attack, they would reinforce the facility's defenses and possibly accelerate their enhancement program even further. How long before investigation fleets reach this position? Kethvar demanded. Estimated 14 hours, Wells replied. But, Your Majesty, there's something else. Our long-range sensors have detected what appears to be a second enhancement facility in a previously unexplored system. If the Zarathi have redundant capabilities. The transmission ended with ominous implications hanging in the space between words. Thessera felt the mission's already narrow chance of success diminishing further. A second facility would mean that destroying the first might only delay Zarathi plans rather than stopping them entirely. Captain Kane to flagship, the communication system announced. Requesting immediate conference with Queen Thessera and Admiral Kethvar. Within minutes, Kane was aboard the Starburst and standing before Thessera's command chair. His usual composed demeanor showed cracks of stress and urgency that reflected the deteriorating situation. Your Majesty, Kane began without preamble, we need to launch immediately or abort the mission entirely. The investigation fleets will force us into engagement before we reach the target, and fighting our way through Zarathi patrol forces will eliminate any chance of surprise. And the second facility? Thessera asked. If it exists, we deal with it later. Right now, destroying the primary enhancement center is our only hope of preventing immediate catastrophe. The secondary facility appears to be in early construction phases, it's not an immediate threat. Admiral Kethvar activated his tactical displays. Launching now means conducting the mission with reduced coordination time and incomplete intelligence updates. The risk factors increase exponentially. The risk factors increase if we wait, Kane countered. Every hour gives the Zarathi more enhanced ships and better defensive positioning. We go now with what we have, or we don't go at all. Thessera studied the tactical projections, weighing impossible choices against unacceptable outcomes. Launch immediately and risk failure through inadequate preparation, or wait and risk discovery by Zarathi investigation fleets. Either option could doom the mission and leave galactic civilization defenseless against enhanced Zarathi forces. Science Officer Keldatz, she called, analysis of current Zarathi enhancement rates versus projected defensive capabilities? Your Majesty, Keldatz replied after consulting his displays, at current enhancement rates, the Zarathi will have overwhelming force superiority within 6 days. Waiting for better coordination or intelligence updates will not meaningfully improve our chances if they continue accelerating their program. The mathematics of the situation were brutal in their clarity. They could attempt a desperate mission now or face an impossible task later. Thessera felt the weight of galactic civilization resting on her decision. "Captain Kane," she said formally, "prepare your ships for immediate departure. Admiral Kethvar, issue launch orders to all Zephyrian vessels. We attempt this mission now, with current resources and coordination." As the bridge crew began implementing departure procedures, Thessera watched the tactical displays update with launch sequences and navigation plots. 24 ships against an enhanced alien facility protected by hundreds of patrol vessels and unknown defensive systems. The odds were terrible, but they were the only odds available. "Your Majesty," Kane said quietly, "I want you to know that whatever happens, humanity appreciates the trust you've placed in us. This alliance will be remembered." "By whom?" Thessera asked with dark humor. "If we fail, there may not be anyone left to remember anything." Kane's expression showed grim determination. "Then, we don't fail." As the joint fleet accelerated toward the jump point that would take them into Zarathi space, Thessera remained on the bridge watching stars shift position as they built velocity. In 4 days, they would either destroy the facility that threatened galactic civilization or die in the attempt. There would be no middle ground, no partial success, no opportunity for second chances. The alliance between Zephyria and humanity had been forged in desperation and necessity. Now it would be tested in the crucible of impossible odds and mortal danger. Thessera found herself praying to ancestors she hadn't spoken to in years, asking for wisdom and courage for a mission unlike any in recorded history. Behind them, the familiar stars of Zephyrian space faded into distance. Ahead lay the unknown darkness of enemy territory and a confrontation that would determine the future of every spacefaring species in the galaxy. The die had been cast, and now they could only hope their desperate gamble would prove sufficient to preserve the worlds they had sworn to protect. The joint fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Zarathi enhancement zone, and Thessera felt her breath catch at the sight before them. The target facility stretched across 15 kilometers of twisted biomechanical architecture, its surface writhing with organic components that seemed to pulse with their own malevolent life. Defensive installations sprouted from its hull like metallic tumors, while patrol fleets moved in complex patterns around its perimeter. "Sweet ancestors," Admiral Kethvar whispered from his position at the tactical station. "Intelligence reports didn't capture the scale of this thing." Captain Kane's voice came through the neural link system, calm despite the overwhelming sight before them. "Remember, size works against them here. The larger the facility, the more vulnerabilities we can exploit. Stay focused on the mission parameters." Thessera activated her command displays, studying the real-time sensor data as it updated their understanding of the target. The facility wasn't just large, it was growing, with new sections being added even as they watched. Construction tentacles reached out into space, assembling components that defied easy categorization as either technological or biological. "Your Majesty," Science Officer Kelvetz reported with barely controlled excitement, "the facility appears to be a living organism modified with technological implants rather than a technological construct enhanced with biological components. The implications for our targeting strategy are significant." "Explain quickly," she commanded. "Living organisms have nervous systems, blood flow equivalents, and critical organs. If we can identify the facility's biological control centers, surgical strikes could cause system-wide failures rather than requiring complete destruction." Through the neural link, Thessera felt Kane's approval of this analysis. Human tactical thinking seemed particularly well-suited to exploiting biological vulnerabilities, probably because their own physiology made them acutely aware of such weaknesses. "Update from human reconnaissance," Kane's voice continued through the link. "Stealth probes have identified 7 critical biological nodes distributed throughout the facility. Destroying all 7 should cause catastrophic system failure without requiring us to breach the heavily armored central core." The tactical display updated to show the new target list. The biological nodes were positioned deep within the facility's structure, requiring the strike force to penetrate multiple defensive layers before reaching their objectives. It would be like performing surgery on a hostile patient that was actively trying to kill the surgeons. Zarathi patrol fleets are adjusting their patterns, reported Navigation Officer Veldan. They appear to be responding to our presence, though they haven't directly detected us yet. Thessera studied the patrol movements through her enhanced displays. The Zarathi formations showed a level of coordination that exceeded anything in previous encounters. Enhanced vessels moved with perfect synchronization, sharing sensor data and tactical information through some form of biological communication network. Neural link update from Captain Kane, Communications Officer Zeldan announced. Human ships are beginning the approach sequence. Zephyrian vessels should follow navigation guidance precisely. Deviations will be detected by enhanced Zarathi sensors. As the fleet began moving toward the facility, Thessera felt the first real taste of human tactical doctrine. Their ships moved in ways that seemed to violate basic principles of space navigation, using gravitational anomalies and electromagnetic interference to mask their approach. Zephyrian vessels struggled to match these maneuvers, their crews adapting to navigation instructions that changed every few seconds. "This is madness," muttered Fleet Commander Silthek from his position at the coordination station. "We're flying blind, following computer calculations that could crash us into asteroids or patrol ships at any moment." "Trust the humans," Thessera commanded, though she felt the same anxiety as her officers. Everything about this approach violated Zephyrian military procedures, but their conventional methods had already proven inadequate against enhanced Zarathi capabilities. Through the neural link, she could feel Kane's consciousness directing the fleet's movement like a conductor leading a complex symphony. His awareness encompassed every ship, every obstacle, every opportunity for advancement toward their objective. It was simultaneously impressive and deeply unsettling to share mental space with someone whose thinking operated on such different principles. "Contact," Admiral Kethvar announced sharply. "Zarathi patrol fleet moving to investigate our approach vector." The main display showed a formation of 12 enhanced Zarathi vessels converging on their position. These weren't the familiar bioships of previous encounters, they bristled with captured technology from dozens of species, their hulls a patchwork of different defensive systems and weapons arrays. "Weapons range in 40 seconds, reported Weapons Officer Morglen. "Orders, Your Majesty." Through the neural link, Thessera felt Kane's tactical assessment flowing directly into her consciousness. The patrol fleet represented a serious threat, but engaging them would alert the entire defensive network to the strike force's presence. However, continuing the approach without dealing with the patrol would result in attack from behind during the facility assault. "Human ships are implementing deception protocols," Kane's voice came through normal communication channels. "Maintain course and prepare for electronic warfare support." Thessera watched in fascination as human vessels began generating false sensor signatures that made the strike force appear to be a much larger formation attacking from multiple directions. The enhanced Zarathi patrol fleet hesitated, their coordination disrupted by conflicting information from their own sensors. "Incredible," Kelvatz observed. "They're making the Zarathi patrol fleet think they're facing a full battle squadron while we remain essentially invisible." The deception lasted exactly long enough for the strike force to reach the facility's outer defensive perimeter. As soon as they crossed into protected space, alarms began echoing across Zarathi communication networks and defensive installations came online with terrifying speed. "All ships," Kane's voice carried new urgency, "execute assault protocol now. Window of opportunity is closing rapidly." The careful coordination of the approach phase disappeared as both human and Zephyrian ships accelerated toward their respective targets. Thessera felt her stomach clench as the Starburst's engines pushed the massive dreadnought beyond safe operational limits, racing against time and defensive response to reach the first biological node. "Zarathi defenders are launching intercept formations," Kethvar reported. "Estimate 60 ships moving to block our approach to Node 1. Human ships are engaging defensive positions around nodes 3 and 4, added Zeldan. Captain Kane reports successful penetration of outer defenses but encountering unexpected resistance from enhanced biomechanical systems. Through the neural link, Thessera could feel the intensity of combat as human ships fought their way through the facility's immune responses. Enhanced Zarathi vessels moved with predatory grace, their hybrid technology allowing rapid adaptation to changing tactical situations. But human crews seemed to thrive in the chaotic environment, improvising solutions to problems faster than their enemies could create new ones. Node 1 approaching weapons range, Morglen announced. Targeting systems have lock on primary biological structures. Thessera studied the tactical display showing their target. The biological node resembled a massive heart-pumping luminescent fluid through conduits that stretched throughout the facility's structure. Destroying it would disrupt the enhancement process for an entire section of the installation. Fire, she commanded. Zephyrian weapons systems unleashed concentrated energy beams that struck the node with devastating precision. The biological structure convulsed as its outer layers were stripped away by focused destruction, but underlying defensive systems activated to protect critical components. The node was damaged but not destroyed. Requires secondary attack, Morglen reported. But Zarathi defenders are moving to intercept. Neural link tactical update, Kane's consciousness flowed through the connection. Combine Zephyrian firepower with human precision targeting. We've identified weak points that your weapons can exploit. Thessera felt Kane's tactical awareness merge with her own understanding of Zephyrian weapons capabilities. Suddenly, she could see exactly where to strike for maximum effect, how to coordinate multiple attacks for cumulative damage, and when to time each shot for optimal penetration. All ships, coordinate fire on designated target points, she commanded, her voice carrying new confidence as human tactical doctrine enhanced Zephyrian military precision. The second attack succeeded where the first had only wounded. Node 1 collapsed in a cascade of biological failure that spread throughout the facility's network. Emergency systems activated as the enhancement process shut down across multiple sections, buying precious time for the assault on remaining targets. Nodes 3 and 4 successfully destroyed, Kane reported through normal communications. Human losses at 30% but mission objectives achieved. Moving to support Zephyrian assault on remaining nodes. Through the neural link, Thessera could feel the cost of those losses, human crews dying in brief explosions of light as their ships were overwhelmed by superior numbers. But Kane's tactical consciousness showed no hesitation, no regret, only determination to complete the mission regardless of price. Node 2 under attack, reported a transmission from the ZNS Thunderstrike. Heavy resistance from enhanced defensive systems, require immediate support. Thessera checked her tactical displays. Node 2 was the largest and most heavily defended of the biological control centers, its destruction critical to preventing the facility from compensating for other losses. But reaching it required threading through overlapping fields of fire from dozens of defensive installations. Admiral, she called to Kethvar, coordinate with human ships for combined assault on Node 2. Maximum firepower, minimal coordination time. Understood, Your Majesty. All Zephyrian vessels, converge on Node 2 for synchronized attack. As the fleet reorganized for the assault, Thessera felt the facility itself beginning to respond to their presence. The biomechanical structure was adapting, growing new defensive systems and redirecting resources to protect critical components. They were fighting something that could literally evolve countermeasures faster than conventional tactics could overcome them. Neural link enhancement activated, Kane announced. Sharing real-time adaptation analysis with all ships. Target weak points as they develop, don't give the facility time to strengthen defenses. Through the enhanced connection, Thessera experienced combat awareness unlike anything in Zephyrian military tradition. She could feel the facility's biological processes, sense the flow of enhancement fluids through its network, anticipate where new defenses would emerge before they fully formed. It was like fighting an opponent whose thoughts she could partially read. Node 2 assault commencing, Morglen announced. All weapons firing in coordination with human targeting data. The combined attack was devastating in its precision and overwhelming in its power. Zephyrian heavy weapons stripped away defensive layers while human ships targeted specific biological vulnerabilities with surgical accuracy. Node 2 collapsed within seconds, its destruction triggering sympathetic failures throughout the facility's network. Catastrophic system failure spreading through biological networks, Kelvets reported with excitement. The facility is losing coordination between enhanced construction and defensive systems. But, even as they achieved success, Thessera could see new threats developing. Enhanced Zarathi reinforcements were arriving from deeper in their territory, and the facility itself was beginning some kind of desperate final protocol that made her neural link connection ache with alien malevolence. Human ships report successful destruction of Nodes 5 and 6, Kane announced. Node 7 remains heavily defended, but facility coordination is failing. One more strike should cause complete system collapse. Through the tactical display, Thessera could see the final target. Node 7 was positioned at the facility's core, surrounded by the most sophisticated defensive systems and protected by the last functional enhancement mechanisms. Reaching it would require the remaining ships to penetrate the heart of alien territory while under attack from every direction. All ships, she commanded, her voice carrying across both human and Zephyrian communication networks, converge on Node 7 for final assault. This is our last chance to complete the mission. As the depleted strike force gathered for the culminating attack, Thessera felt the weight of galactic civilization resting on their next few minutes of combat. Success would cripple Zarathi enhancement capabilities and preserve the balance of power that allowed multiple species to coexist. Failure would unleash an unstoppable force that could consume every world they had sworn to protect. The neural link pulsed with shared determination as human adaptability merged with Zephyrian precision for the final assault on the heart of alien enhancement technology. Node 7 loomed before them like a malevolent heart, its biomechanical surface pulsing with alien energy that made Thessera's neural implants ache just from proximity. The facility's final biological control center was 3 times larger than the previous nodes, protected by defensive systems that defied classification as either technology or biology. Worse, enhanced Zarathi reinforcements were arriving in waves, their hybrid ships moving with predatory coordination that spoke of desperate determination to protect their most critical asset. Facility is initiating emergency enhancement protocols, Science Officer Kelvets reported, his voice tight with strain. They're accelerating the remaining enhancement processes beyond safe operational limits. If we don't stop them in the next 10 minutes, they'll complete enough enhanced vessels to overwhelm our remaining forces. Through the neural link, Thessera could feel Captain Kane's tactical consciousness analyzing their dwindling options. Of the original 24 ships, only 9 Zephyrian vessels and 3 human ships remained functional. Against Node 7's defenses and the gathering Zarathi reinforcements, their chance of success approached 0 by any conventional calculation. Your Majesty, Admiral Kethvar's voice carried grim acceptance, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. We've accomplished significant damage to their enhancement capabilities. Negative, Kane's response came through both neural link and communication systems simultaneously. Partial success isn't enough. If Node 7 remains operational, the facility can rebuild everything we've destroyed within a few weeks. This is our only chance to stop them permanently. Thessera studied the tactical displays showing their desperate situation. Enhanced Zarathi vessels were converging from all directions, their hybrid technology allowing coordination that exceeded anything they had previously encountered. The facility itself was adapting to their attack patterns, growing new defensive systems faster than they could destroy existing ones. Human ships are implementing final protocol, Kane announced. Recommend Zephyrian vessels provide maximum covering fire while we attempt penetration of core defenses. What's final protocol? Kethvar demanded. Something we hoped we wouldn't need, Kane replied grimly. Direct penetration assault. We ram through their defenses and detonate our ship's power cores inside Node 7. The implications hit Thessera like a physical blow. Kane was proposing suicide attacks by his remaining ships to ensure mission success. It was exactly the kind of desperate, illogical human tactic that achieved impossible results through sheer determination and willingness to pay any price for victory. Captain, she said formally, the Zephyrian Empire cannot ask human crews to sacrifice themselves for our protection. Your Majesty, Kane's voice carried unexpected warmth through the neural link, you're not asking. We're offering. This threat affects all our peoples, stopping it is worth any price. Through the enhanced connection, Thessera could feel the resolution of human crews as they prepared for their final mission. There was no fear in their shared consciousness, only determination and a fierce pride in what they were about to accomplish. It was humbling and terrifying in equal measure. Zarathi reinforcements entering engagement range, reported Weapons Officer Morglen. Recommend immediate commencement of covering fire protocols. All Zephyrian vessels, Thessera commanded, provide maximum supporting fire for human assault ships. Show them what the Royal Fleet can accomplish when properly motivated. As Zephyrian heavy cruisers opened fire with everything they had, the space around Node 7 erupted in brilliant displays of energy and destruction. But the enhanced Zarathi vessels pressed their attack with inhuman persistence, their biomechanical systems allowing them to continue fighting even after sustaining damage that would cripple conventional ships. UES Defiance beginning penetration run, Kane reported. Zephyrian fire is creating enough disruption for approach, but defensive systems are adapting rapidly. Through the neural link, Thessera experienced the assault from the human perspective. Captain Rodriguez of the Defiance pushed her ship through layers of defensive fire that would have destroyed any conventional vessel, using improvised modifications and sheer audacity to reach Node 7's outer perimeter. The ship's hull was ablaze with energy discharges as alien weapons tore through armor and structural components. Defiance has reached minimum safe distance for power core detonation, Kane announced. Recommend all ships increase distance from Node 7. Thessera watched through enhanced sensors as the human frigate disappeared into the Biological Control Center's defensive matrix. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, Node 7 convulsed as a massive explosion erupted from within its core structure, sending shockwaves through the facility's entire biomechanical network. Partial success, Kelvetz reported excitedly. Node 7 is damaged but not destroyed. The facility's emergency systems are compensating, but enhancement processes have slowed significantly. UES persistence beginning secondary penetration run, Kane announced calmly, as though discussing routine military exercises rather than his own impending death. Captain, Thessera called through both communication systems and neural link, surely there must be alternative approaches that don't require, Your Majesty, Kane interrupted gently, this is what humans do. We find ways to win impossible situations by doing things other species won't consider. Trust us to finish what we started. Through the neural link, Thessera felt Kane's consciousness during his final approach. His tactical awareness remained sharp and focused despite the overwhelming defensive fire, his ship's systems failing around him as he guided the persistence through destruction that defied survival. She experienced his determination, his acceptance of necessary sacrifice, and his fierce satisfaction at striking a blow for galactic survival. The persistence disappeared into Node 7's damaged structure like an arrow into a wounded heart. The resulting explosion was larger than the first, sending cascading failures through the facility's biological networks and triggering emergency shutdowns across multiple enhancement systems. Node 7 is failing, Kelvetz announced with relief. Enhancement processes are shutting down facility-wide. We did it, the mission is successful. But, even as they celebrated, enhanced Zarathi reinforcements were pressing their attack with increased desperation. Having lost their primary enhancement facility, they seemed determined to destroy the strike force that had dealt them such a devastating blow. Incoming transmission from Enhanced Zarathi Command.